Reading from the book of Ruth, chapter 3, verses 1 to 18. Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, I need to seek some security for you so that it may be well with you. Now here is our kinsman Boaz, with whose young women you have been working. See, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Now wash and anoint yourself and put on your best clothes and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, observe the place where he lies, then go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do." She said to her, "All that you tell me, I will do." So she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had instructed her. When Boaz had eaten and drunk, and he was in a contented mood, he went down to the end of the heap of grain and lay down. Then Ruth came stealthily and uncovered his feet and lay down. At midnight the man was startled and turned over, and there, lying at his feet, was a woman. He said, "Who are you?" And she answered, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your cloak over your servant, for you are our next of kin." He said, "May you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter. This last instance of your loyalty is better than the first. You have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not be afraid. I will do all that you ask, for all the assembly of my people know you are a worthy woman. But now, though it is true that I am a poor kinsman, there is another kinsman more closely related than I. Remain this night, and in the morning, if he will act as next of kin for you, let him do it. If he is not willing to act as next of kin for you, then as the Lord lives, I will act as your next of kin for you. Lie down until the morning." So she lay at his feet until morning, but got up before one person could recognize another, for he said, "It must not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor." Then he said, "Bring the cloak you are wearing and hold it out." So she held it, and he poured out 6 measures of barley and put it onto her back. Then he went into the city. She came to her mother-in-law, who said, "How did things go with you, my daughter?" Then she told her all that the man had done for her, saying, "He gave me these 6 measures of barley, for he said, 'Do not go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed.'" She replied, "Wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out, for the man will not rest, but he will settle the matter today." A reading from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 7 and 8. "Ask, and it will be given you. Search, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds, and for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened." May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts always be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. It is said that prayer first changes the one who prays. It is like a spark which ignites a soul into a deeper understanding of self, others, and God. Sometimes prayer is easy, sometimes difficult, and yes, at times boring and tedious. But praying is necessary because it creates opportunities for us. To pray is to open the door of one's heart and to provide access to the divine Spirit of God. The Spirit of God offers us an invitation to seek out new paths of learning, leading us to new experiences and places and times of growth. It knocks on unexpected doorways. It is initiative-taking, not reactive. It does not follow the do not ask, do not search, do not knock formula that some people live daily. It does not allow one to stay in confined and comfortable spaces, but pushes, prods, and leads to new and risky ventures. In other words, praying should not be a rote, static experience that remains untested, idle, and unfulfilling. That is why Jesus, in the Sermon on the Mount, invites his listeners to be bold and courageous in prayer. They are invited to ask, seek, and knock. These are all words of action. Of course, the opposite of this is to remain silent, stay put, and refrain from knocking. The latter of these leads to stagnancy. I had a close relative who often said, God helps those who help themselves. They thought it was a biblical statement. I don't think it is. However, there is some truth to the statement. Unfortunately for this person, it was only half true because they never did their part. They left it all on God. But Jesus' words to ask, seek, and knock, or find, is where the prayers part begins. Prayer requires contemplation, then action. Prayer is a place where we get closer to the center of the sacred that we call God. It is the time and place where we plead, argue, despair, laugh, cry, feel peace and joy. In this place, where we go to do self-reflection, where we feel safe to say what is on our minds and hearts. Prayer is the place that confirms, rejects, reassures, and keeps us authentic. Prayer is the crucible where we deal with our false and real selves, where the masks we put up are removed, where the good, bad, ugly, and beautiful meet. As I wrote earlier, we cannot do this if we do not have to ask questions, seek new and deeper ways to feel fully human. It is the task of incarnating our curiosity and not to be fearful to ask God for answers to our deepest questions. It is a place to seek, knock, and to find. We look for places to fit in, to belong, to flourish. We seek the truth in all of its manifestations. We may or may not get the answer we expected, positive or negative. After something bad happens to people, you often hear the sentence, "Our thoughts and prayers are with you." This sentence, though helpful on one level, is becoming an ineffective way of communicating our concern. It is offered up to let others know that we care and are sharing their suffering, but nothing ever seems to change. Words are not enough. This is where prayer must lead to action. Here is an example. A church prayer group met one evening to offer prayers for their community regarding people who did not have the financial or food resources necessary to meet their needs. At some point during the meeting, there was a knock on the door. The host answered, and before her stood a young boy whose father was part of the prayer group. He had gone to the house to tell the group that his father could not make the meeting because he was out distributing food and other necessities. The aim of this example is not to malign prayer groups. They are a vital part of every church. They keep members focused on people, places, and situations who need support in their lives. They keep people in front of our minds so we do not forget and are in touch with people's suffering, pain, joys, and triumph. But as I said, a second step is necessary, especially if we are in the position to help. Sometimes we are far from the situation and we have to look for creative ways for how we can respond. I will never forget seeing Archbishop Desmond Tutu standing in the pulpit at St. Paul's Cathedral in London, Ontario back in 1990 when he was visiting. He spoke of how much the prayers from people around the world meant to him when he was working against apartheid in South Africa. He recalled a particular point in time when he was feeling discouraged about the situation unfolding there at the time and was feeling down. He said he opened a letter up from a small Lutheran church in Alaska who wrote him with their support and prayers. He said that receiving this letter from a small church on the other side of the world meant so much to him. that the people from around the world were thinking of him and of the people under apartheid. So much so that he mentioned it in his sermon that day. All that was required for the church in Alaska was a pen and paper. It was a small action that had an enormous impact. I know that prayer can sometimes be mistaken for giving God a shopping list of our personal requests on our health or wealth or relationship or otherwise. And it's not wrong to ask for something for us, but it is not the main purpose of prayer, of asking, searching, and knocking. Prayer of this type creates an opening for God's Spirit to enter our lives, take hold of us, and then bring us along for the ride. Ask, search, and knock. Jesus dares you. Amen.